Um, okay, so while we're joining, please change your name to indicate the company that you are representing here today. Thank you so much for joining. Kindly change your name to indicate the companies that you are representing here today. Thank you. Okay, so today, welcome to the UN Global Compact Network Nigeria's open house. Today we'll be sharing how UNGC is uniting business communities and how you can accelerate your sustainability journey, thereby accelerating and scaling global impact. My name is Stephanie Iwunze, and I serve as the Programs Associate with the United Nations Global Compact Network here in Nigeria. And I would be introducing you. I'll be handing over to my Chief Operations Officer here in Nigeria, Tumi Onamade, and also Manager Participant Engagement for the Middle East and Africa region here in the United Nations Global Compact. I'm Jessica Merhej. So alongside your company names, please include your names. I apologize for that mistake. Please include your name and the company that you are representing here today. Yeah, so I hand over to me to continue the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, and good morning to everyone who's taking the time to be here. It's the very first step to say you're interested in sustainability, whether you know what sustainability is about, or if you have no idea as well, we're here to guide you. My name is Tumi Onamade, and I serve as the Chief Operating Officer of the UN Global Compact here in Nigeria. And it's been an interesting journey while I've been working in this role. We've seen quite a lot of companies in whatever scale, be it small scale, be it large scale. We've seen quite a number of companies working actively in sustainability. And when you hear sustainability or the Sustainable Development Goals, what is sustainability? Though that's what we're here to discuss. That's what we're here to tell you more about, and how your organization that you represent can engage with the UN Global Compact and advance sustainability towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. With me on the call is Jessica, and I hand it over to Jessica to introduce herself. Thank you very much.
Yeah, perfect, Tumi. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Merhej. So I'm very excited to welcome you all to this open house. As the Participant Engagement Manager for the Middle East and Africa, I have the pleasure of leading engagement activities and connecting with amazing individuals and organizations like yours. And although I work closely with our headquarters in New York, I'm based in Dubai, which sort of helps me stay connected to the unique dynamics of our region. So today, as Tumi said, we'll be discussing the UN Global Compact, our mission, how you can get involved to make a difference. And I'm really looking forward to sharing insights, hearing your thoughts, and just exploring ways we can actually work together to create a sustainable future for all. So again, thank you so much for being here. Oh yeah, sorry, I'm unable. I wasn't able to actually see my screen, so hold on. Yeah, so exactly. So let's start just with our history and the way we started. So the UN Global Compact was actually established in the year 2000, when former Secretary General Kofi Annan wanted to sort of give a human face to the business world and initiate a global compact of shared values and principles. So he was actually sitting in Davos with a number of high-level CEOs. And at that time, 40 companies and their CEOs signed up to create what is now known as the UN Global Compact. So together, they sort of came up with a set of principles and values, which eventually became the basis upon which responsible business would operate in. So this principle-based approach is actually anchored around the areas that you see here. So human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption. At the same time, we also have the mandate to deliver the Sustainable Development Goals. So we all know the SDGs and those little colored boxes. A lot of companies are really trying to figure out how they are actually going to reach those SDGs in different ways. So we are here to support companies to do this by the 2030 agenda that most UN states have actually agreed to. So what we do essentially is we work with businesses to help them align their business policies, their strategies and operations with the 10 principles, and also help them achieve the 17 SDGs. So fast forward 24 years later, we are the largest corporate sustainability globally, over 25,000 if we actually include NGOs, non-businesses, and businesses associations. And being the largest in the world, maybe you would imagine that we work only with the largest companies, that the Global 2000 or the Fortune 500, let's say. We do have most of them as part of our participant network, but we also have a number of SMEs, and actually more than half of our participants are SMEs. So our initiative is inclusive to companies of all sizes. We have over 160 countries that have active participants, and the way we reach them is through our country network. So we have over 70 country networks. In Nigeria, we have a fully established, long-standing network, full-fledged local team on the ground. And Nigeria is actually one of the countries where we really had increased interest from the beginning. But essentially, the Nigeria Country Network that is mandated by the UN Global Compact is basically responsible to deliver the programs, convene different stakeholders, organize activities, and just really manage the portfolio of companies that are part of that network. And we have over 120 participants, some of which are top companies like FBN Holdings, Coca-Cola, and so on and so forth. So there has been a significant progress. And we actually know that 88% of companies who are participating in the Global Compact are taking some form of action on the SDGs. And looking at our principles, having policies and practices in place to deliver against each of the 10 principles. So we really are seeing sort of a renewed interest and significantly from the investment community. And the work we've done with businesses is really making a big impact. So one of the most significant examples is the Science-Based Targets Initiative. We have around 7,000 companies who are actually taking action grounded in climate science through the Science-Based Target Initiatives. And at the same time, of those who have attended one of our gender-related accelerator, for example, 90% of them have actually come out of these programs and set gender targets at the senior management levels, and so on and so forth. So if you look at that, our number of participants, their results, their impact, etc., everything seems to be great and rosy, right? But however, the world is actually not on track to deliver the SDGs. So while we are making progress, the reality is that we actually need to do more. So Tumi, next, please, if you don't mind. So actually 85% of SDG indicators are actually off track. So we are in serious trouble right now. I don't want to sound too dramatic, but only 18% of global 2000 companies are actually on track to reach net zero by 2050. The world is headed for 2.8 degrees of global heating by the end of the century. It would take 151 years to close the economic global gender pay gap at this rate, and so on and so forth. So although we are doing great work, there is more that we can do to reach more companies, to make sure that we really are moving the needle on the SDGs. And at the end of the day, it's all about scaling up. So we know our collective work is making an impact. We just need to expand it. For example, here are a few key points to actually illustrate what I'm talking about. So 39% of companies in the UN Global Compact are actually setting ambitious goals that address societal needs. So what we need to do is to increase that number so more companies are setting these important goals. Another thing to note is that 53% of CEOs say that their biggest challenge in achieving sustainability goals is actually extending these efforts through their supply chain. So this has actually increased by 14 percentage points over the last 3 years. So CEOs are actually realizing that this is something crucial to address. And for example, while 71% of companies in the UN Global Compact do ensure a sort of living wage for their employees, only 20% extend this to all of their supply chain. So this is something that we would note as a tough issue, and we actually need to help. And another thing to note is that, for example, in the Global Compact, 91% of companies with revenues over $1 billion do have emissions targets, but only 58% of smaller businesses do. So here is what we need to do. We need to actually scale our efforts to support all companies, regardless of their size or where they are on their sustainability journey. And the only solution is actually collaboration. So as the Deputy Secretary General says, we need to actually, all of us, come together in order to achieve what we are looking to achieve in terms of sustainability. And that's how we started. So we're now investing in teams all around the regions, in different countries, investing in on-the-ground teams that can really work on getting companies, engaging with them, and really just working together to actually set the right track. So again, the only solution is collaboration. So how do we actually enable companies to really make a positive impact? And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to write them down in the chat box, or maybe raise your hand. We'll make sure to go over them. But the way we actually enable companies to make a positive impact is through these 3 pillars. So the first one is driving impact on specific goals, scaling action, which is extremely important because it's all about scalability and how much you can actually scale your action. And the third one is making measurable progress, because at the end of the day, you can't manage what you don't measure. So we'll go through each of these pillars step by step in just a few seconds. But in essence, it's a scale model. So we've identified 7 focus areas where the business community can actually have a strong impact. And we've designed a portfolio of initiatives to really help you deliver on them. And these are human rights, labor and decent work, climate change, and anti-corruption. So these are at the heart of the Global Compact's 10 principles. So the way we do it is we tailor programs for your organization, and we do it in the areas around the environment, social governance. You have your enablers like sustainable finance, SDG integration, sustainable supply chain. So these are the programs that we actually tailor for your organizations. And Tumi will explain in the next few slides exactly how do we deliver those programs to you.
Thank you very much, Jessica, and hello to everyone once again. Like I said at the beginning of this call, if you understand what sustainability is, we're here to support you. And also, if you don't understand what sustainability is at all, we're here to support you. Looking at the 4 areas where we work on: human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption. Those are our 4 anchor points of the UN Global Compact. However, just like Jessica said, we have impact areas that you can see on your screen. There's 7 impact areas that we see that when organizations are working on these particular areas, they're able to scale sustainability. What is sustainability? Is to ensure that we have a better world for ourselves today, tomorrow, and for the generation to come. We could pick on very prevalent issues that we can see in Nigeria of today. We can see climate change effects in Nigeria today. We can see flooding, deforestation, there's famine. Those are effects of climate change. Labor, there was a conversation, or there's been the conversation on trying to move the minimum wage above. In the UN Global Compact, we don't even use the word minimum wage. We say living wage, because we recognize that that's what anyone is supposed to earn to have a basic standard of living. That falls under labor and decent work. We talk about human rights. There are conversations around this. Everyone in Nigeria is well informed of NSAs, of how to engage with the police, paramilitary, and military. These are human rights issues. It might not just be with the state forces, but also in the environment where you work, an organization. How do you protect the human rights of your employees and everyone that's engaged with you? Anti-corruption is a very big topic. Nigeria is not scoring so well when it comes to the anti-corruption index. But what can a company do to make sure we move from level A way up the ladder? Anti-corruption at the end of the day doesn't benefit small businesses, doesn't benefit big businesses, because the funds that are supposed to be channeled into the growth of the business are being siphoned into somebody's pocket. These are conversations that we have. Gender equality. Why do I, as a female, working the same job, doing the same thing as a male counterpart, earns lower than males? That is what we talk about in gender equality. Why do I, as a female, why am I not able to access loans? You would have seen a lot of the financial institutions today in Nigeria, and it's the same across the world, have women-focused loans, just because we want to target and redirect funding to promote women-owned businesses, and not just have, but also empower women so they're able to bring in income for themselves. SDG integration. How do you develop a business that has key sustainability areas embedded? 10 years ago, there wasn't a rise in solar businesses, solar panel businesses, solar electrification. But today, we have quite a number of SMEs engaged with this. That's because it is a sustainability initiative, but we are also focused that businesses should survive, businesses should thrive, and businesses should be able to have profits. We talk about transformational governance. How do you structure your business? As an SME or a large company, are you key on transformational governance? We don't use the word corporate governance here because we're not just trying to comply. We're not just encouraging companies to just comply or just tick the box, but how are you embedding that into your DNA? These are the specific goals that we focus on here at the UN Global Compact, and we're hoping that this connects with you in some way or the other. Now we work on, we've talked about the impact areas, but how do you then relate this? We use 4 areas: connect, learn, lead, and communicate. We say you can connect with industry leaders, with expert peers, both at the UN level, international, regional, being Africa, and local as well. We say learn. How do you learn? How do you engage in knowledge development? We have those opportunities. I'll go into that in a bit. How do you lead? If you're a leading company who already understands what sustainability is, how do you lead a particular thematic area? And also, how do you communicate what you're doing as a company who's working on sustainability? So these are the areas where we work on. Going further into that. So yes, how do we connect? Like I said earlier, we connect through our events at the global level, at the regional level. Typical example, we have the UN Global General Assembly, the United Nations General Assembly coming up in September. You might have heard how it's bringing together of all this, of the governments of the world who are member states of the United Nations, but as well as businesses. And the whole essence of the UN Global Compact is that sustainability, or the SDGs, are not just for governments, but businesses have a role to play. And I like to say that we are not the policing dog. You don't have to look perfect to us. Rather, we are the guiding dog of how to encouraging you and supporting you on how to embed sustainability principles into your business. So we have UNGA. We also have COP, which is the Conference of State Parties, our Conference of Parties focused on climate. Last year it held in Dubai. This year is holding in Baku, Azerbaijan. For businesses that are focused on climate-related issues, this is also a gathering where it's very key. Aside those two, we also have ILO conference, which holds in Geneva. We also have human rights conference as well, focusing on this thematic issues. And these are the global conferences. We also scale that to the Africa level conferences. In October, we have the Africa Business and Human Rights Forum, just conversing on human rights and also how businesses have a part to play and what they are doing. Nigeria is going to be represented there as well. And this is not just conversation about what companies are doing, but how we could also collaborate with the government. Example, over the past 3 years, there's a national action plan, and this is policy advocacy. A national action plan on business and human rights was passed by the then President Buhari before he left office. But just talking about that policy document talks about what businesses are supposed to do in terms of protecting human rights of their businesses. That's Connect. At the local level, we do have quite a number of events as well, engage with government, engage with private sector, engage with civil society on how to, on key focus areas, just like I said, thematic issues that we've talked about earlier, on how companies can collaborate to advance sustainability. Another opportunity is the academy, and that's picking on Learn. The academy is a resource platform for all employees of organizations who are members of the UN Global Compact. And I'd just like to emphasize that the UN Global Compact is an organizational-based partnership, not individual-based. But if any organization is a member of the UN Global Compact, they're able to, every employee from the lowest ranking to the highest ranking is able to access the academy to have learnings. In fact, we have organizations like Sterling Bank. It's a member of the UN Global Compact, participant of the UN Global Compact. They have all their employees onboarded onto the academy, and they use this as weekly trainings, monthly trainings, quarterly trainings for their staff so that they're able to improve their learnings. Just last year, the Sterling Bank head office in Marina now has their whole building cladded in solar panels. And if I'm not mistaken, they're totally off grid. So these are sustainability initiatives that we're talking about, right? We also do have peer learning groups. What are peer learning groups? Focused on thematic areas, because we recognize that the effect that a company who's maybe an oil and gas industry has an outsized effect on the environment. A company who's in the mining industry has an outsized effect, has an outsized effect on human rights. We also recognize that for industries that are very labor dense, so you talk about the hospitality industry, they're also key matters when it comes to labor, when it comes to manufacturing as well, is very labor dense. So there are conversations on labor, and on labor, you could talk about decent work, you could talk about occupational health and safety, many different areas of discussion. But what the peer learning groups are about is connecting Nigerian companies with other companies across the world that are working on this particular topic and are able to discuss, brainstorm, develop ideas, engage. Also, they're able to focus on key areas. We have a peer learning group on labor and decent work. We have a peer learning group on climate action. We have a peer learning group on gender equality. And we have a peer learning group on SMEs as well. So you're able to engage and know how to properly move your business forward, but also embed the sustainability bit. I'm also talking about accelerators. Accelerators are not long-term, but a longer period of time, about 6 to 9 months or 3 to 6 months of training for employees of an organization. For organizations that are members, we usually take in about 2 persons per organization, just so that there's a robust room for conversation of each company. Accelerators too are focused on key topics. We have the Climate Ambition Accelerator. We have the Gender Equality Accelerator as well. We call it Target Gender Equality. We have the Business and Human Rights Accelerator in Nigeria. We just concluded that. We had quite a number of companies engaged in this. Quite a number of companies engaged in this, the likes of First Bank, Sterling Bank, Access Bank, Oando, Seplat. And these are the somewhat, we would call them large companies, but we also do have SMEs engaged in this initiatives. We also have what we call the SDG innovation. So how do you develop an idea? How do you develop sustainability models that are good for business, but are also tackling issues, sustainability issues? We ran this in Nigeria in 2021, and we had Oando develop a sustainability initiative or projects that is addressing sustainability issues. You might also link it, you might have heard in Nigeria where Oando is also trying to have CNG power buses. There was a pilot scheme developed earlier in the year. So these are the kind of initiatives that we promote businesses on. And we're not just focused on the large organizations, we're also offering support to the smaller organizations. And lastly, we have what we call the Think Labs. Now, what are Think Labs? Think Labs are very much focused on leaders of organizations who want to set the agenda and shape the definition of what should be done in terms of corporate sustainability. These are their time-bound incubation of solutions to specific projects. How do we offer this? They're done in a cross-functional, multi-sectoral approach, and that's to accumulate the best practice in a particular area. So they will address particular business challenges and sustainability challenges. And in COP26, we launched the Just Transition Think Lab. Now, and that's focused on bringing together companies to unlock green job potential and ensure that the transition to a zero carbon economy leaves no one behind. So those are some of our offerings. I do see questions dropping in the chat, plus please drop your questions, and then we would attend to them further down with the presentation. So we also do have coalitions, and the UN Global Compact has quite a lot of offerings to make sure that we are connecting you in the key area where you are really in need or where you really want to engage with us. We do have what we call the CEO Water Mandate. We're implementing that in Nigeria as well. And what is the CEO Water Mandate? It's focused on targeting improved outcomes for 3 billion people in over 100 basins. And we do have basins in Nigeria that are part of it. We have the Ogun River Basin that is part of this focus. And let me explain what it is. The river basin, a lot of companies tap from it. Even communities or settlements around that area do tap from that source for water resources. But these are issues that are not on the news every day, but you're experiencing. The water table is reducing. How do we ensure that Nigeria has good access to water, potable water? How do we ensure that there is no drought in the land? You might have heard of countries like Sudan where there's drought and there's no water in sight. How do we prevent Nigeria from getting to that particular stage? So that's what the CEO Water Mandate is about. It's a collaboration of CEOs focusing on projects to help water basins. We also have the Ocean Stewardship and Science-Based Targets. It's targeted at scaling initiative across oceans and climate emissions goals. We have the CFO Coalition as well. It's a group of large companies to scale their corporate finance, which has a scale target of 70 companies to join, and for 50% of the corporate investments to be SDG linked through various financial instruments. Now, this is a target of about $500 billion. And hopefully we also want to have Nigerian companies that are part of that. We also have like I said, the CFO Coalition on the SDGs. Local initiatives that we've had, because yes, as much as we have global projects, we also want to make sure that it's localized for implementation in Nigeria, but also we come up with local projects. This particular project, we call it the SME Corporate Governance Guidelines. This was launched in May, 30th May this year, and it was about 3 years of work in collaboration with the Financial Reporting Council, ourselves in Nigeria, and an organization called the Integrity Organization. And what this particular project was working on is developing guidelines for companies, SMEs, to adopt. The whole idea is if Amaka and Sons wants to access the supply chain, Amaka and Sons deals in computing materials. So it deals in computers, laptops, and things like that, and wants to supply MTN. MTN has a lot of documentation that they will request from Amaka and Sons. Likewise, if Mustafa and Daughters is a maize farmer in the north and wants to supply Nestle or Unilever for the production of Goldimon or for the production of some of cereals, how do you access these large companies that can take in those materials that are raw materials for them? They do need them. They would ask a lot of documentation from these companies. So what this is doing is standardizing and making sure there's a level playing field for Amaka and Sons and Mustafa and Daughters. That if an SME follows these guidelines and the larger organizations are also aligned with these guidelines, you are able to access both MTN and access Nestle and Unilever. You would have to go through duplicate verification of vendor management systems, right? And that's what we are trying to scale across Nigeria. We're currently working with the likes of Oando, MTN, Access Bank with this, that anyone who wants to access their vendor or access the supply chain of this organization is able to follow these guidelines, and you have that you're able to have access to these companies. So this is an example of what we do when we're engaging with SMEs. And this was birthed out of conversations with SMEs. What are the challenges that you're having? Say, oh yes, we are trying to thrive, we are trying to build businesses, but we're not able to approach these larger companies who can strengthen us, who can work with us. We also have this initiative called Spark. It's a global initiative, but also implemented locally. Last year, we ran a pilot with Dangote, and what is focused on is we trained, not Dangote, we trained the companies on the supply chain of Dangote on sustainability areas. Because at the end of the day, when you're a supplier to a larger company, you also have to be aware of industry trends. You also have to be aware of thematic areas, of issues that you can also support an organization with. An example is if Dangote today is very much focused in moving forward recycling, right? And we have a company, these are the kind of opportunities that present itself when we can train companies on climate-related issues, climate action. You are better able to pitch yourself as a relevant partner that Dangote might want to engage and say, okay, yes, in terms of recycling, this is how we want to support, this is how we want to engage, and quite a number of initiatives as well. This is majorly focused for SMEs, and the whole idea is that SMEs are also able to target businesses, increase their profits, increase economic development. We know what is prevalent in Nigeria at the time, so it's just to help create more sustainable economic growth. Alongside, we have an initiative, I referenced it earlier, talking about the National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights. This is not a very jolly conversation because we know the state of Nigeria, but we cannot just fold our arms. Yes, we can complain on our social media platforms, so how do we effect policy change? How do we properly engage the government and make them actualize and have an actualized change for Nigeria? So this is the initiative that I referenced earlier, the National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights, and how businesses and the government can work in protecting human rights of everyone. We've talked about our thematic areas. We have working groups on these thematic areas. So it's for an organization to recognize, oh, what is this key topic that is my focus at this time, and will guide you in that particular area. Some of the events that we have, CEO Roundtable. This year in New York, we'll be having a CEO Roundtable for businesses that are participants of the UN Global Compact, as well as the government, as well as the governments of Nigeria and CSOs, just to focus on what is the new direction, outcomes from hunger, and how can we direct the progress of Nigeria today. We also have supply chain focus conversations or events, labor and decent work. We've talked about anti-corruption, and also ESG investments, how to tie your business to sustainability principles. An example is if a company is putting together a business proposal to access loan from Zenith Bank, if you're able to itemize that this business is going to employ 50% women, this business is also going to get all these raw materials from a particular area in Nigeria, but not just raw materials. I'm going to make sure that I'm not having adverse effects of our environment. So meaning, if my business is maybe manufacturing of a soft drink, I'm also going to recycle my materials. That is a sustainability initiative, right? So that is also helps in also knowing how to tie your business to sustainability. If you say, oh, my business today, we are going to go 50% solar and 50%, and we know how there's been for those who are based in Lagos, there's been a hike in electricity prices this year. So I'm going to go 50% solar and 50% on-grid. That is a sustainability initiative, and you're more likely to access loans from financial institutions, commercial banks, as well as the likes of BOI, Bank of Industry. So that's how we are offering support. Like I said, organizations that are engaged with the UN Global Compact are required to communicate. And that is because we believe in transparency. Every organization doesn't need to be perfect, but how are you moving forward? And that is what we focus on when it comes to communicate. So we have a digital platform where organizations annually and the anniversary, or rather between May and July of every year is a reporting period where an organization is to report and submit what they've been doing over the past 1 year in those 4 anchor areas being human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption. So this has mandatory questions and voluntary questions on to track your performance, measure your progress, and also you're able to benchmark. This is a public database, so anybody is able to access it. It's on the UN Global Compact website. And for organizations that are members, Jessica referenced earlier that we have about 19,000 businesses, 5,000 non-businesses. This is all public. And in fact, this is one of the platforms that for larger companies, rating agencies use to rate companies. It might not necessarily apply to SMEs, but if you are representing a large organization here, it would also apply. So it's one of the platforms that rating agencies use to check information on companies. What are they doing when it comes to sustainability, right? I referenced earlier, you have a participant profile, so it shows the name of your organization. Like I said, we are not just focused on large businesses, but small businesses as well are able to showcase their relationship or their engagement with the UN Global Compact. And also you're able to have a participant media toolkit. And sustainability is not just focused on one sector. It's focused on every business. So we have businesses ranging from the ones that will quickly jump to your mind being oil and gas, environment companies, financial institutions. We have media companies who are participants of the UN Global Compact. We have hospitality industry who is, they're also participants of the UN Global Compact. We have automobile manufacturing industries, even services, right? Services ranging across legal professions, ranging across accounting. They are also engaged with the UN Global Compact. So you have this media toolkit where you're able to publicly showcase your engagements, either in your annual reports for a company who puts together an annual report, or for your social media engagements as well. Now, the communication on progress that I talked about earlier is aligned with major sustainability reporting frameworks. If anyone could just drop in the chat, if any company is currently doing sustainability reporting, it would be nice to know in the chat and what framework we use. But the communication on progress is aligned with the likes of GRI, OECD, IFRS, S1 and S2. So if you are aligning with those sustainability frameworks, this is not another headache. It is aligned, so you just to extract the information and also able to embed it and apply it in this reporting standard that we use. So at this point, I want to stop here. We have been having conversations on our side, but just to also go through the questions or comments that we see in the chats and answer any questions that you might have. Okay, so I'm saying, yes, Regan Roller, definitely collaboration is indeed the way forward to sustainability. That's very correct. And that's why we have SDG 17 that says partnership for the goals, which is very, very key. Joseph Otto says, what you don't measure can be managed, definitely. And you would also understand in the Nigerian context, that's why we say there's a lack of data. These are the conversations. How do we measure data in particular areas? Sandra Ojeka, an understanding of the economic impact of the prevailing issues is key, yes. Rich Chidi says, is there a document that speaks to the strategic idea of the UN Global Compact? the relationship between thematic areas and strategic enablers, and maybe what initiatives are rolled out and how these actions are measured. He represents the inclusive community for advocacy and development. Well, yes, this presentation will be shared with you after this session. However, the strategic idea of the UNGC plainly is to ensure that businesses across the world are promoting sustainability by embedding principles and policies in their processes. That is the main strategic idea of the UN Global Compact. The relationship between thematic areas are not a conversation we can have in 5 minutes or in 1 hour, 30 minutes. And that is why you would need to engage with the UN Global Compact. So you see the relationship or the interconnectedness of these thematic areas and what the enablers are and what you can do as a business. And what range of topics, Tumi, what Egon says, what range of topics are in the academic learning models? He represents Sunfi. These topics cover all the areas you can think of. So from labor to decent work, to occupational health and safety, to supply chain, to sustainable procurement, to sustainable finance, to climate action. It has all the topics that you can talk about or you can think about when it comes to sustainability. We have Victoria Uwak. How do one join the peer learning group? Now, these are offerings, all these offerings that we've referenced are secondary level in the sense that primary level, you first have to engage with the UN Global Compact. You have to become a participant. We don't use the word membership because a membership is, you would have to write an exam and go through a certification process usually to become a member of a body. But we say participant, but what it means is that you're engaged with the UN Global Compact. Welcome to everyone who's introduced themselves on the chat. Yes, CGG seems a cohesive program. Yes, we are hoping that we can move businesses that are micro to small, from businesses that are small to medium, and ensure that we have large enterprises in Nigeria who will stand the test of time. In other climes, you have companies who are 100 years old, 150 years old. We want to also have that in Nigeria. Thank you. Okay, so Omapejo Afanu says, how can we get an invite for the CEO conference? I'm already registered for Gabi physical attendance. Okay, that's very lovely to hear that you'll be attending Gabi physical attendance. Our colleague Stephanie will reach out to you privately to get your email address, and then we would see how we can engage for the CEO conference. Also, if there's anybody on this platform who would be attending ONGA or any side events at ONGA in person, you can let us know, and we'll see how we can also engage on that platform. Thank you to everyone who's joined us here. We had a question. Okay, so Clara Okoro, My Beautiful Africa says, as nano companies, we may not have the capacity to work on these reports. Yes, that's very true, but the reports are very based, and that's why we have mandatory and voluntary questions. It is easy for nano companies to even feel this communication on progress, these reports. It is nothing too tasking. It is very, very basic. That what it requires from me has these questions. If you are acting on it, you say you are acting on it, and that would apply to large organizations. If you're not actively working in this area, nobody expects you to be doing as much as an Owando or a First Bank or a Sterling Bank or an Access Bank is doing. Your businesses are way apart. So it's just a baseline reporting that you're able to feel even as a non-organization. So Ozioma Chinedu from Aqua Earth Consulting says, we have developed a sustainability report for a financial institution in alignment with the GRI and SASB and some other relevant frameworks. That's very lovely. Way to go. Giselle, you would want to engage with the UN Global Compact. So you're also able to give us insights into what are the challenges that Nigerian companies trying to align sustainability reports are facing. Also, what are the trainings that are needed. We also hope that we're able to offer trainings when it comes to how to write a sustainability report. What are the factors, what are the key areas, what are the material areas that you would need to focus on. So Bokyamba Tanto says, compliments of the day. I own a tomato paste company and equally supply fresh vegetables from Nigeria, from farmers to end consumers within Nigeria. Do we fit into the UN Global Compact program? Yes, the UN Global Compact is for every size of industry across every size of organization across every industry, from nano, micro to small to medium, as well as large organizations. We offer that platform for organizations to engage with us. So she said, I hear so Olayinka Layi Adeite says, I hear you talk mostly about SMEs. Does it mean you don't work with NGOs? No, not at all. We do work with NGOs, but on a strategic basis. Because when the UN Global Compact was developed 24 years ago, our mandate is not directly to work with NGOs. It is to work with businesses. And why I say SMEs is not just SMEs we're working with, we also work with large organizations. But I also don't want the SMEs to feel small in the light of larger organizations. Every large organization you can think of in Nigeria is a member. So you think about First Bank, Sterling Bank, Fidelity Bank, Wema, Access Bank. You could talk about the likes of MTN, Owando, Unilever. So these are large organizations that are members. How do we work with NGOs? We work with NGOs on strategic relationship basis. So if there's anyone from an NGO who wants to engage with us, you can also email us privately, and we'll take that conversation forward. Victoria Patrick says, is there a way this side of material will be shared? Definitely after this call, the recording and this presentation will be shared to you as well. Thank you to everyone who's joined. Andy Moyan says, can startups who just started 2 months ago join UNGC? I see annual gross revenue is a required field. Yes, every startup can. Once you have your registration documents, you can join the company today. Talking about gross revenue is a required field. Jessica will throw more light into that in a bit. How can Saturday BCB event says, how can one become a participant of the Global Compact? Jessica will get to that in a bit. Okay. Sandra Ojeka says, what's the framework that guides environmental impact reporting? Well, that's not a conversation for today, but there are many frameworks that guide environmental impact reporting. But sustainability as a whole has what I referenced, GRI, SASB, IFRS S1 and S2, and embedded in this, you have areas that focus on sustainability impact reporting. However, this is why we say we are here to support. When there's lack of understanding in that particular area, you could access the academy and develop your knowledge on what to answer this kind of question. You could also be part of our accelerator, our climate accelerator. We don't just run this in Nigeria. For example, last year rather, we had it at the regional level. So we had companies from South Africa, Kenya, Mauritius, Egypt, Morocco, Nigeria as well, part of this program. So these are conversations that you can have with participants, and you can also improve your knowledge on thematic issues. Okay. Princess Eketriko, how does an organization become a participant? So I see, and that's why we say you should include the organization that you represent. The NGX has been a participant of the UN Global Compact for well over 10 or 15 years. We do the Ring the Bell for International Women's Day every year in collaboration with the NGX. So I would encourage you to also engage with your internal sustainability team.
Feel free to swap the ones that we've already discussed in the other,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All
right.
So Princess Eketriko, it will be nice to also encourage you to engage with your sustainability team, and communications team in NGX, we work very much collaboratively when it comes to sustainability. Okay. Okay, looking through if we have any more key questions. And for people who have initiatives that are sustainability focused, we also offer platforms where you're able to showcase your business, show what you're doing. I see Regan Roland from One Click Med, saying we contribute to sustainability by limiting paper, which is usually poorly disposed, adding to climate problems. Yes. Our waste to health insurance package allows us to link patients up for treatment in exchange for waste. Wow, this is a very interesting angle. This is actually, I'm actually wowed. Because health insurance is a very key issue in Nigeria. So if this is what you're doing in exchange for wealth, you need to be engaged with us. I will put you on a platform on this innovative idea or this innovative business strategy that you've developed. So Tumi, is there an official channel to inform of our interest? I'll be attending longer. I would like to stay connected and also attend the CEO roundtable. Yes. So we do have an email address that you can engage with us on or via, but also after this meeting, we'll be sharing the presentation and you can respond to the email with your questions or requests for information on our ONGA events, and then we can take that conversation forward. Okay, so Bashir Dahiru says, does Global Compact access to patient capital for businesses committed to ESG principles? So yes, and that's why I explained an initiative like the SME corporate governance guidelines. The whole idea is we are creating that level playing field. Like I said, if Amaka and Sons wants to be supplying computers to MTN, or Mustafa and Daughters wants to supply corn or raw materials to Nestle or Unilever. The access to capital, we are not directly providing the capital, but how do we create an environment where you can easily access capital? The project as well for SPAC, for the local level, we're working on engaging with financial institutions that if companies are trained on sustainability issues, you can produce a certificate. And for all these trainings that we say you can take part in, we do offer certificates. So if you're able to offer a certificate to say you've undergone sustainability training, you're able to say you align with the SME corporate governance guidelines, you might get extra points to access a loan from the likes of Bank of Industry. These are the kind of initiatives that we're actively working on. It's not yet finalized, but these are the platforms that we are working on, how we want to also strategically ensure that businesses are able to access capital, access businesses, or access opportunities and grow their business. Ezebuchi Stanley, do you have a peer learning group for organizations in the consulting space? And what are the opportunities for such organizations who are participants with the UNGC? We don't have a peer learning group specifically for the consulting space. However, we always need engagements with consultants. So the likes of, in Nigeria, KPMG is a participant of the UN Global Compact. Globally, we have KPMG, we have PwC, we have Accenture. These are the big, and if I'm not mistaken, and EY as well, actually, as participants of the UN Global Compact, the big fours that we refer to when we talk about sustainability. We always need you, we always want to engage with you because you are the one also engaging other organizations. So how do you best advise? And you can always, we are not limiting any sector. So you can always engage. It might be on a thematic area of focus. If you see that there is a rise in companies that you service that want to address climate issues, how can you best advise them? How can you best help them come up with a sustainability strategy? So you should very much engage with the UN Global Compact. Rich Chidi says, how can an NGO form a partnership with the UN Global Compact, and are there any forthcoming in-person events that are still open for registration? We do have quite a number of events. What we would also do is in our post-event email or communication, we would inform you of all our global events also, and our local events. You could also follow us on our social media platforms where you'll see updates on our events. How can the NGO form a partnership with the UN Global Compact? Richard, what I would also recommend is that you could send us an email with your proposal, a thematic topic, and we'll see how we can form an alliance. Yes, I see resurgence legal practice. Our focus is principally on governance and compliance. Yes, it will be very helpful for you to engage with the UN Global Compact on transformational governance. Okay. And the last question I'm going to be responding to Omakwejo Afanu, B Square Management. Yes, B Square Management. So my organization offers business transformation programs, and we would like to add the ESG as part of the transformational plans. Are there materials and resources we can use for engagement? We do a lot of work in the hospitality space, and we can drive this impact there. That's very lovely to hear. Yes, just like I referenced earlier, the Academy is a very good opportunity for you to leverage on to get learnings when it comes to how to embed ESG. You could also take part in some of the accelerators I talked about, the peer learning groups I talked about. The opportunities, the options are endless. In fact, there are way many opportunities that one organization can take part in. You have quite a lot of them. So you could take part in this. In the Academy, you have based like foundational programs to even what is ESG? What is, how can you learn? What are the foundations of sustainability on the Academy platform, right? So that can also help in how you develop your transformational programs for businesses. I think I have done justice to the questions that we have on the chat. Thank you everyone for your time. I'll be handing over to Jessica, who can talk more about how to join the UN Global Compact. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Tumi. And thank you everyone for your questions. We're loving the engagement and the questions being asked, and especially the interest in joining us. And what makes it better is that joining the UN Global Compact is extremely easy. So there's just a few steps actually, and 3 very simple steps. The first step is just to fill the application online. We do recommend you review the application guidelines. We have a help desk available to support with any questions that you might have. And the second step is just to submit the letter of commitment from the CEO of your organization or somebody higher, just mentioning that you are committed to the 10 principles and you're committing to work together to really help us achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And the third step is just to fill out the application form. And as Tumi mentioned, we are not a guarding dog. So in no way are we a certification body, or do we rate you, or do we rank you, or penalize you for not doing anything, let's say. But, we just want the top executive in the company to show that they are committed to sustainability. And it's not just a good to have or a box to tick. So we are here to support. We are not here to audit. And the second requirement to becoming and remaining part of the Global Compact, in addition to your communication on progress report, is actually the annual contribution to pay based on certain revenue tiers that you might fall under. So depending on where you fall in terms of your annual revenue, you'd be required to pay an annual contribution fee. So the global fixed fees are for the revenue brackets above $50 million. And then a country network fee will apply for those below $50 million. So let's say your annual revenue is between $25 to $50 million, you would be required to pay 300,000 naira and so on and so forth. But honestly, even if you are paying the higher brackets, for us, we think of these fees as symbolic fees compared to the revenue that's generated by your company. We like to think of them as essentially you're investing in your local team and the country network, which is actually your team as well. So basically you, all the other participants that you can reach out to, to organize programs that are, based on your needs, and maybe to organize events, maybe regional events that are based on your requests, whether it's sector specific or topic specific. So essentially, you are investing in your company and all the remaining participants that continue to join the initiative. And honestly, that's the beauty of the Global Compact. It's not a reporting standard. It's a network that you actually need to start your journey towards sustainability. So again, that's pretty much it. Super easy, 3 steps to submit an application online, to sign the letter of commitment that is available on our website. It's a readily available template, and all you need to do is just sign it by a CEO or somebody higher within the organization. And then your only requirements would be to submit your communication on progress report on an annual basis, and to pay the annual contribution depending on where you fall in terms of your annual revenue. And that's pretty much it, actually.
Thank you very much, Jessica. At this point, will be any questions. We know that we've had questions. So if you have any questions that have not been answered previously, is there anyone who would like to speak? Any definite questions? And also just to clarify that the annual revenue, so the left cadre is in USD. So going from the very bottom, a company with less than $25 million in revenue would be paying an annual contribution of 200,000 Naira. A company that earns or makes revenue between $25 and $50 million would be paying an annual contribution of 300,000 Naira. Okay. Then a company who is making $50 to $250 million in revenue would then begin to pay the annual contribution in dollar denominations. So just to explain that, SMEs would definitely fall within the Naira-based contributions as annual contributions. And these are just contributions to facilitate the work. And just like Jessica said, it's an investment into supporting both the Nigerian office and the global operations. But you very well know that these are not the funds that the UN Global Compact relies on. But we know that once you have that investment, you're able to also commit to it, and you want to actualize what you gain out of it. What you benefit at the end of the day cannot be quantified to this amount. I see a question from Tomiwa Igun. For the annual contribution, can you explain subsidiary? So a subsidiary is how we define subsidiaries. Or Jessica, do you want to speak to that actually?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to take that question. So technically, subsidiaries could be part of a parent company, let's say. So if your organization that is based in Nigeria is part of a bigger parent company that is based either in Nigeria or somewhere else, you could opt to submit an application as a subsidiary. And what that does, if your parent company is already a participant of the UN Global Compact, should either have the option of joining as a subsidiary that is part of the parent company. So you wouldn't really be required to report on your communication on progress if your parent company is already doing that. But there will be still opportunities for you to engage on a local level, and you still be required to pay an annual contribution, because again, you would be attending all the local events, all the local accelerators, all the local trainings. So that's just where it might differ in terms of joining as a subsidiary or as a parent company. Now, certain parent companies, let's say, if they're already a participant of the UN Global Compact, might not want their subsidiaries to be as engaged as they are, since they are already doing the job themselves. So what that would entail is that you would maybe only have access to the academy courses and not join as an independent entity that could access all local activities and events. So it really just depends on whether you'd like to join as a subsidiary or as part of your parent company, or as an independent entity that's working in Nigeria, and then you'd have access to all the local activities and local events.
Thank you, Jessica. And just to add to that, so what a subsidiary would qualify as a subsidiary is if your parent company has a greater decision-making than the counterpart. So a typical example would be the likes of Unilever, Nestle, Nigerian Breweries, which is a subsidiary of Heineken, Guinness, which is a subsidiary of an international organization. You would have the likes of, let me see. So yes, those companies, like I mentioned, will fall under subsidiary. So it means that you're headquartered in another organization and another in another country. So if that headquarter is already a participant of the UN Global Compact, we don't require that you also pay the same amount or annual contribution. So we just have that subsidiary fee for companies that are subsidiaries in Nigeria. Any other key questions?
I think there's just Oluwa who mentions that she has already submitted their application back in March and noticed that that status is still pending. So I just wanted to clarify something. So once your application is actually submitted, it does undergo a due diligence process, and not all companies are actually approved to join the UN Global Compact. So there are certain exclusionary criteria, certain guidelines that if you fall under might not allow you to be part of the Global Compact. So here we check on registration paperwork, trade licenses, whether you are on the UN sanction list, let's say, or there are certain scandals that have been published about your company. So there is a due diligence process that happens, and once that is completed, that's when your application would be approved. But I guess, Tumi, maybe you'll just check exactly what's happening with this application. But just wanted to clarify that there will be a due diligence process for companies trying to join the UN Global Compact.
Yes, so what we would also do is, thanks for flagging that, we would check if there's any issue with your application. Also, we might also have sent in requests for more documents. So you probably want to check your spam folder if there have been any such requests. But we would also reach out to you to make sure that your application is approved. Or just like Jessica said, if there are any issues, we do go through exclusionary criteria and integrity. Applications go through integrity as well. So to check that if you don't have any violations or any of things of the such, we can then proceed with your application. Yes, so Joseph O2, we are a philanthropic organization working across states in Nigeria. I believe you fall under the non-business category. Yes, you do fall under the non-business category. You would see the distinction between business applications and non-business applications. Sandra Okoli Ubong says, how do you know your parent company is a part of the UN Global Compact? So we'll be dropping a link shortly with that has all the database of companies that are participants or were previous participants. So you're able to check. You're also able to see if they are active or if they used to be a participant, but they're no longer participants, right? However, it would also be nice to know the name of your organization. And if it's one that we know that they are actually participants, we can take the conversation forward if you're interested in joining as a subsidiary. So you could post this conversation, you could send an email to the email that sends out this presentation with the name of your organization, and we'll take that conversation from there. That's also why we encourage that you add your organization name to your name. If you want to declare in the chat what your organization name is, I could provide more information right on this call as well. If there are no further key questions, I think we've covered most of it. Yes. So at this point, we say a very, very big thank you. A very, very big thank you to everyone who's joined us today. The work that we do is not just for today, it's for future generations to come. And I started this call by saying that sustainability is securing our today, our tomorrow, and our future. We've talked about very much diverse offerings in different areas in terms of gender, in terms of climate, in terms of labor, in terms of occupational health and safety, economic development, across board, both SMEs and large organizations. The opportunities are mass. Sustainability is not just for specific topics or specific areas, but these many areas that I mentioned and more. Anti-corruption, governance, compliance. It's very interesting that we also have diverse professionals on this call. But thank you very much for joining. We do hope that you engage with us and we can embed sustainability into our companies, into our respective organizations, and achieve the sustainable development goals. I'll hand it over to Jessica now, just to say her last words, and then to Stephanie to close the program for today. Thank you everyone for your time from my end. Over to you, Jessica.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Tumi. Honestly, having these conversations just really fuels our passion to advance sustainable practices in the corporate world. And the United Global Compact is extremely dedicated to really promoting sustainability on a global scale. And we really believe in the power of impactful partnerships to actually drive positive change. So we're very much looking forward to receiving your applications, at least some of your applications, if not all, hopefully. But yeah, thank you so much for the beautiful questions that you guys asked. I hope it was engaging as expected, but yeah, thank you so much. And again, hope we can continue the conversations even more. Stephanie, over to you.
Okay. Thank you everyone for joining. This has been a very interesting conversation. We look forward to reviewing your applications, if not all. We have also dropped a link to join us to start off your application, to process for your application in the chat box. We're also on social media, and you can connect with us on LinkedIn, Instagram, or you can also reach out to us via email using info@globalcompactng.org. Thank you everyone for joining, and have a pleasant day and week ahead. Thank you.